Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought we would talk about my hopes for War Thunder in 2025. Obviously 2024 is coming to a close, and it's been a very good year for War Thunder. There's been a lot of really cool stuff happen, and generally I've been pretty impressed with the amount of stuff they've added, and also some of the changes they've made over the time. There have, of course, been some skew whiffs, but I feel like that's always when it comes to War Thunder. There is sometimes some rub with a lot of the smooth. Anyway, we'll go through some ideas in this video on what I would like to see from the next kind of set of updates and also the next year. If you have any ideas of what you would like to see, I'd love to see some comments around it and also share your ideas because it's always pretty cool to see. Anyway, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe. Let's get started. The first part is a simple one, volume presets. This is something I've asked for previously, and I'm just going to reiterate the point. As somebody who plays ground, air, naval, and pretty much all of the different game modes, one of the problems I have is you only have one preset for your volume, and this basically means that you cannot tailor your volume experience to the different game modes that you play. This absolutely sucks because what the volume types you want in naval are going to be completely different to air, which are going to be completely different to ground, and it's just very annoying. They've added some volume options, especially for aircraft recently, with stuff like the RWR volume and stuff like that, but it would be lovely to just have 3 presets, one for naval, one for ground, one for air, so you don't have to run into the issue where you have to just kind of change all your volume sliders before you change mode. Especially with stuff like these events going on right now, the Winter Tales event kind of shows the problem, where if you want to grind all 3 vehicles, you have to play 3 separate game modes, and your volumes are going to be all over the place because of it. One of the other areas I would like to see improved is kind of the customization of the player when it comes to War Thunder. We have camos, we have decorations. Obviously they're working on improvements to the profile. I'd also like to see more of those because right now it's pretty barren and doesn't really show what I feel like it should. There's too much empty space in it. They need to start filling it with stuff. But one of the parts that I thought would be really cool, talking about once again the idea of having the different game mode setups, is why not have some kind of avatar which either hangs out in the hangar or is in the profile, which is tied to those specific things. Why not have like a avatar for pilots? Why not have an avatar for tankers? And why not have an avatar for, ships? So an admiral, a tank commander, and a pilot, and you could customize them in different ways. They obviously have a bunch of models when it comes to this stuff. You could easily just mix and match the different stuff that you put on them, and therefore everybody can have their own unique personalization when it comes to War Thunder. Another thing they could also do with this is if you click on them in the hangar, because obviously they would chill in the hangar, you'd be able to walk around the hangar, and then that could include more customization down the way, where you can customize different stuff in the hangar instead of having to use a user hangar. So that would be really awesome. That would be pretty cool, and it would kind of add a little bit more uniqueness to each person's hangar. The other idea that I thought on top of this, which would be nice, is if you could go visit somebody's hangar. So if it gets to a point where you do have that hangar customization, where you do have that avatar representation, you could be able to go around and see what other people have created in their design space. Kind of like what you do with the profile, but people don't do it right now because the profile looks incredibly barren, and you can also hide a ton of information, so it looks nowhere near as good. The other part of this type of idea too would be the simple fact that people could join hangars together in squads. So imagine you're in a squad, and imagine you have like 2 other people there. Maybe it shows their vehicles in your hangar as you go to battle, so you can see what they're bringing along, and you can kind of get this kind of camaraderie that's going on. With the avatar setup, what you could also do is in events, you could give people cosmetics to be able to put on their avatars, And even at the end of the battle, they could have an enlisted system or other systems where maybe certain avatars are shown if they do something special in the battle. Maybe most assists, most scouts, maybe most kills, maybe most scores, stuff like that. And maybe you could tie bonuses to those, kind of like what's already happening with medals and other parts. So therefore people could get little bonuses in RP and SL, which would be really cool. On top of this, you could also add an honor system into the game, which has been very successful in many other areas, where you can honor players for either doing well or, you know, enhanced teamwork or being friendly or whatever it is. And then after a certain amount of time, if people get to a certain amount of honor, maybe then they can get something in the game, like a camo, a profile picture, a title, something like that. Nothing too crazy, just something to try and emphasize people trying to do good in the game, or also at the same time just trying to improve teamwork. Because at the moment in War Thunder, you don't have too many of those things. The only thing you really have is the fact that you can, you know, say error alert or, you know, help, I need repair. There isn't a lot of actual camaraderie with teams, and I think improving that would be really cool. Another thing is just bringing back removed vehicles. We're at the point now where there's a bunch of fake vehicles that have been added into the game. Every update, it seems, for naval, the high tiers, a vehicle that was never finished gets added. Like in the last updates, it was for Germany. They actually added the good old Ersatz York. This was a project which was never finished in the First World War. And before that, you know, you have some battle cruisers / ships for the USSR. You also have some even for Japan, which doesn't really need one. And that will continue. You also have stuff like the F-16AJ for Japan, the R2Y2s, and also many other vehicles that have inconsistencies when it comes to their history. And it just seems a little bit weird how some are allowed to exist and others aren't. And it would be nice if we could have one rule for all or one rule for none. And that would be okay. So bringing back some of the old removed vehicles. We've talked about stuff like the Panther II, Tiger II 105, and also the Coelian. The problem with that BR bracket right now is it has no vehicles in it. So actually removing them really hurts the German tech tree right now. So it'd be nice if they got added back and, you know, to bolster those lineups which are sat there. The other areas of course, stuff like the Year 2s, the SB2Ms, and many others that were removed very early on in the game cycle, it would be cool to bring them back. And even if you don't want to bring them back as standard tech tree vehicles, you could just bring them back as squadron vehicles, or you could bring them back as vehicles where you use something like free RP to be able to grind them out with, you know, something different to use the good old convertible research points for. Maybe you could even take a heavy hit on the RP that you can use for it, but at least it would be something that would be there. The next thing I would like to see is an improvement in the Warbond shop. The Warbond shop hasn't changed too much recently. They've obviously added a new set of decals to it, which is kind of cool, but also at the same time, they haven't really changed a lot of how the things work. So we have had a massive increase in ranks in the game. We're now to rank 8 in a lot of game modes, but the premiums haven't really got that much higher. This actual Warbond shop is a lot better than previous ones because it has 3 rank 3 premium vehicles in it and also 3 rank 2 premium vehicles. Usually there are some rank 1s in there or just more rank 2s and 3s, but this one is quite a nice setup. I would like them to continue this and maybe think about adding a rank 4 in the future, especially once the game continues to expand. Also, keeping in the battle trophies, all of them, instead of switching them up over and over again. One of the problems right now is they've actually added a collection in, which is for all of the zodiac signs. So that you have to like kind of get all of the zodiac pinups in order to be able to get that collection. The problem with this is the zodiac signs only come around every other battle pass, which if they are doing a battle pass every 3 months, that means they come around twice every year. The same with stuff like the bushes and things like that. It just doesn't seem fair that these things are, gatekeeped from players just because they want to rotate the system. Why not just add everything to the Warbond shop? Also, have a box which gives people certain modifications for vehicles, such as you can pick which specific modifications you want on a vehicle to make the grind a little bit easier. This could be quite an expensive Warbond box, but at least it would give people an incentive to grind for it instead of an RNG talisman, which they have absolutely no control over, which can be very annoying to deal with. So it would be nice to see that. Also, on top of talking about that, keeping the new event system. I think the new event system is really good. I'm very happy with how the event system has gone. I really think it's much better than the old system. Now that we have the old winter event back with the 4 vehicles, I think the new event system where you can focus on one specific vehicle, one specific game mode, and if you like it, you can do it. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it. It gives people a lot more choice, and also it means that everything is available for everybody, which is not what happened in the old system. In the old system, if you wanted all of the vehicles in the Build-A-Bear events, for example, you just couldn't, unless you spent money, which is awful at the end of the day. That's not how it should be. So this new event system, the way that they've done it, even though it does require technically more constant play from people, I think it's so much better because it gives people the opportunity to pick and choose what they want to do instead of having these like specific periods in the year where it's like a heavy grind and then you get a lot of burnout and then people don't want to play anymore and then they wait for a while and then go again for another heavy grind. Where this, it's up to the player more, and I think systems like that are so much better. The other part of this is just general grinding. Reduction in RP for a lot of aviation stuff is needed, and also naval stuff is needed. Something I've been doing recently is researching out quite a lot of like rank 7 aircraft, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So, for example, the F4E Phantom 2, or let's say something like the A7E, right, which is an 11.0 vehicle, this costs 292,200 RP to fully research. So that's how much RP you need to get all of the modifications on this 11.0 rank 7 vehicle. If you have a look at the F15E, which is 14.0, one of the best vehicles in the game, so 3.0 BR above it, and also rank 8, it's 314,000 RP. So the difference between these two in terms of total RP required is 20,000 RP, which is less than 10%. It's like 5% difference between the two vehicles and how much you need to grind both of them, which is just insane because of the difference in where they're at in the tech tree. This is leading to people having really tough times with grinding out specific vehicles, and it isn't just an air thing. This is also happening in ground. This is also happening in naval. I like the idea of certain vehicles getting less amounts of RP required compared to others, since they are also non-meta vehicles or utility vehicles. Stuff like SPAAs, for example, like SAM systems, should need less grinding than something like a standard MBT, because you get less rewards from actually doing what they're supposed to do. That, to me, would also be something that would be really nice to see. Maybe at some point we can see that. At the moment, that isn't the case, but who knows, maybe in the future that could be there. So adding in features also to incentivize playing the same vehicles in multiple trees, just adding a discount is pretty simple. If you, let's say, spade one of the F5s, such as the American F5E in the standard tech tree, maybe when you play another F5 in another tech tree, you get a 2% reduction in the amount of research you need RP-wise for the modifications. Maybe if you complete another one, maybe that increases to 4%. Maybe if you spade another one, that increases to 6% or 5%, something small to just give people an incentive to do it. Because, for example, for the F5, which is a vehicle that isn't, as all over the place as everything else. Like, think about the M44. They added 6 of them in the last update. But think about the fact that the F5E, you have the American one, you have 2 Chinese ones, and then also now with Japan, you have other ones too. You have the F5A and the F5T. So there's 6 of them right there, plus the F5ES FCU, and also the event and the premium ones, without even adding those in. So you have 6 F5s, which is just nuts, right? Just there in 3 separate tech trees. What if there was just a little thing which was like, okay, we know we've added quite a lot of these things, but don't worry, what we'll do is when you spade one, we'll make the other one easier to grind. Because doing the same thing over and over again is not very fun, and it sucks at the end of the day that that's the case. Hopefully they can do something about it. Also, this would help people get away from the format of only playing only a few tech trees, which would get away the major issue we have in War Thunder, which is one of the problems with having discussions about things. They're usually very heavily set on like one vehicle or one nation, which is where the person plays, and this just makes conversations about it impossible, leads to a lot of bias, and it really is quite hard to get through the quagmire. The next one is spawn cost changes for CAS, and this is one we've talked about maybe for 6 months, maybe a year at this point. It has been shown that there is a problem with CAS at specific BRs. It is too dominant, it is too aggressive. Why not add in a system where it looks at all of the statistics of what is being used, and what it does is it makes it so you can have more micro changes quicker to the amount of spawn points that is needed for specific CAS elements. If you are seeing something being used way more than something else, and also it has a higher efficiency, why not increase the spawn points of that and decrease the spawn points of something else? Why not just do these little micro things while you are trying to fix it by adding more AAs, which is not going to be the solution for many of these problems, as we've talked about previously with certain video evidence of these things happening. Why not do stuff like that? Why not just set it up in that way? Why not try and do a system which is a bit more malleable for what's going on? It would be nice, but who knows? Maybe we'll see something different. Pages of history changes would also be nice. I really like the page of history format. I think it's really cool, grinding out, a profile picture every month, and also getting a bunch of bonuses along the way, such as premium time, boosters, camouflages. I think it's really, really cool, the system, and it's one of those that is really nice. The problem I have with it, though, is pretty simple. It's become very samey. So there's a lot of times where you're on like the Eastern Front for World War II playing the same vehicles, or the Western Front for World War II playing the same vehicles. They've recently started adding more kind of, let's say, more modern pages of history, which is quite nice, but it still doesn't involve a lot of the countries in the game. Why not have specific events in the page of history which mark certain things in certain countries? They already have like the first flight of stuff, but I mean, like, let's say like the, I don't know, when Israel became a state. How about that? So in the month that happened, just have an event for that, and it's like play any Israeli vehicle for 20k. So you can get them involved. Maybe for China, you could do something with certain historical events that happened when it comes to the military stuff. Maybe you could then bring in some vehicles for those, just to get them more involved in the page of history circuit, which I think is super important. The whole point of page of history isn't just to obviously have a historical setup and get free stuff, it's also to try and get people to permeate through the game and try different things. And if that's not happening, it's not happening, right? Another thing to do with this, yearly challenges, monthly challenges, maybe a map-related thing, maybe even something with World War mode if it was PvE in a setup, maybe a squadron idea. But maybe you have like a map which turns up in the hangar. When you click on the map, you can see 2 front lines, and one of them is controlled by you, the other one is controlled by an AI, or it's controlled by a standard system, and each point on the map has a challenge connected to it on that front line. When you complete that challenge, the front line pushes forward, and therefore gives you a new challenge to be able to complete. And then eventually, as you push forward and, let's say, win the war, or control a specific amount of territory after doing so many challenges, maybe you get something, whether it's a camouflage of the war that it's representing, or the battle that it's representing, maybe like a title, maybe like a profile pic. In general, it's something that I think will be quite cool. Imagine if you have the front line of Kursk, and what it does is it gives you the battle lines of it, and each point has a specific kind of task on it relating to specific vehicles that were either used there, or maybe specific types of vehicles that were used there. And if you complete these tasks, the front line pushes forward, and when you get to a specific point, maybe you can get a camouflage for a Soviet vehicle that was used at the Battle of Kursk. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, I think it would be generally quite nice. So yeah, this would be a way of kind of incentivizing people to play this stuff. It could be linked to the Battle Pass, so a 3-month period. It could be just random challenges that don't have to have times on them. It could even be linked to the achievements that we already have in the game, so therefore you have an incentive to go to them instead of just random pieces of free RP, which are completely worthless to most players once you've got to that point. So that would be kind of cool. Talking about the historical section and all this type of thing, it would be really cool to have some kind of like museum in War Thunder, a museum for the player, so it has like all your statistics, all of the events that you've completed or even competed in. It could show some of the vehicles you've played over the years, such as your favored vehicle of that year. Because when I look at my service record, some of my highest played vehicles are ones which are literally I haven't played in like 5 or 6 years. So it'd be kind of cool to see the different statistics over the time. Maybe the map that you've played the most. Maybe the best game that you've had. Maybe stuff such as how many camouflages you've unlocked. Stuff like that. And then remember we talked about that idea of people being able to visit your hangar? Well, why not add this in so people can go and see your museum, go and see what your profile is about, and basically getting people involved in the actual environment itself. Then you could have a museum for your squadron, because there isn't really a lot tying people to squadrons right now, apart from Squadron RP, and if you're like involved in the competitive stuff. So why not have some kind of historic thing where it's like, I remember when we did this, I remember when we set this up, I remember these players who did this thing. It would be nice to put, you know, people as a statue or a mantle for people to appreciate. I think in general that would be quite nice. And then the last thing is simple: squad matchmaking and RRB. This is something I've talked about for a while, and I can't believe it hasn't ever changed. So if you have a look at like Ground RB or even Naval, if you're queuing up in a squad, it seems like it tries to match squad for squad, and this is very positive. That's what it should do, because it leads to a lot less issues in terms of matchmaking. Air doesn't seem to do this, and hasn't done it for the longest time. I might be wrong, it may have changed, but I've just seen it too many times where one side has all squads on their team and the other side has none. This leads to incredibly unbalanced matches, because of course when one team has communication and one team is working together and the other one isn't, then obviously it doesn't work very well. So I would like to see the same matchmaking rules put in for ground and naval, also added to air, so therefore we can all be on an equal playing field. I don't know why it's the case that that isn't there, but it isn't right now. So hopefully that can come in. As I said, if you guys have any ideas or any thoughts that you would like to see in the game over the next year, please let me know so I can pass them along. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.